It's showtime!
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Chong and I'm the creator of the television show We Bare Bears. I loved drawing as a kid, so I wanted to draw for a living. I didn't know what that meant as a kid. I just copied everything I had around me, comics, animation, just whatever I saw, even things on the cereal boxes. And eventually I went into school to be an illustrator, which is like doing like magazine illustrations or like newspaper illustrations. But after that, I realized animation was really what I wanted to do. So I went to school to do that for a couple of years. And after that, I ended up as a story artist in animation, which is a person who takes the script and turns it into like kind of like a little comic strip so that you can see what the finished product is going to be in a very early stage. So I did that for about 10 years. And I worked at a lot of different studios. I worked at Disney feature animation. I worked at Pixar, and it was a great experience. And that's kind of my entry into animation. This is the early origins of the Bears. I was just at a library and I was just doodling, and I remember my girlfriend's niece was next to me in the library. She was only like, I think 7 or something like that when she was there. And we were just messing around and I was drawing things trying to make her laugh. And these are the drawings that came out, and they're just really goofy, weird, nonsensical drawings. And when I drew these 3 bears stacked on top of each other, she really thought it was hilarious. And so I just kept drawing it and drawing it. I know it sounds very strange, but that it just kind of happened just like that. It wasn't something that I was really thinking about, or I was like, spending hours like, what would be a good joke? It was just something that just as a goofy joke came out.
Road trip! 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 Road trip!
Have fun!
Slow down!
And eventually it became this webcomic that I was just doing online for fun. I didn't have an audience. Nobody looked at it. It was just more for me, honestly. You can see all this stuff. It's still online. And it used to be called 3 Bare Bears, which is kind of like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. I did about maybe 10 comics. I guess if any of you guys know the show, you can see that this was actually something that ended up in the show eventually. But very early on, it was actually part of the webcomic with the baby bears in the desert trying to hitchhike. When I realized I wanted to make a TV show, I basically just took this comic, and it was very bare bones, but there were some basic things there that really appealed to me. The bears were already in a stack. There were 3 of them. Their personalities weren't defined, but I basically took that comic and I repurposed it into a TV show and fleshed it out. I created a world for them to exist in, and that's what I pitched essentially. This is an image from the cover of the initial pitch. What they call it is the Bible, the pitch Bible for the TV show. As you can see, the bears look a little bit strange. They kind of lack form. But you can also see this background cast behind them that looks nothing like anyone from the show. I mean, I guess you can identify Nom Nom. Charlie has a really weird beard. But nobody else here looks at all like anything from the show. And that's because even though I had sold them on this idea, as you're working on it, things change a lot and evolve. So yeah, and you can even see the date here. It says October 22nd, 2012. So that was a long time ago. 2 of the things in this pitch Bible that were super necessary to sell the show are these 2 images here. And I think these are the first 2 that appeared in the Bible. One is the stack, which is this very iconic visual of the bears as they move around. And then the next image is the bears kind of hanging around with people, and very casually, and people aren't freaked out by them. They're almost just like at a party, and it's just like they're other people. So I knew that these were 2 of the very, very iconic and important images to kind of sell people on the idea of the show. It's funny now to see it, evolve now into this thing that everyone knows about, and this TV show, this movie, and it's just kind of wild to know that it came from just something so goofy, I guess.
We're tired of your antics.
It's just what we do.
Yeah, it's endearing.
You've got a bear problem, and I'm a problem solver.
Ice Bear senses impending doom.
I think all the personalities more or less stayed the same, and I knew kind of who they were. I knew Grizzly was going to be this older brother who kind of ordered them around and was going to do weird, crazy things. And he also was going to eat a lot and like be a glutton. Panda, we knew he was going to be more emotional and more emo, or more sort of like to himself, kind of an introvert. We knew that people were going to think he was cute, but he didn't like it. We also knew that he was going to always be looking for like a girlfriend, but he always strike out. But we also knew his brothers were going to be the ones to help him get out of that. And then Ice Bear, we knew was going to be kind of the youngest child who nobody really paid attention to, but was full of amazing skills and talents. Also, he was the one behind the scenes doing all the housework and things, but never complained about it. And also a character that lived in the fridge, which made a lot of sense for a polar bear. So after that, I kind of made a pilot episode, which is the first episode. This is kind of my process. So I do a lot of like little sketches in my sketchbook and kind of write along with it because I also wrote the pilot and all the dialogue myself. So this is just my process as I'm trying to work out what the shots look like and what the dialogue looks like. And then here are 3 images from the pilot. And as you can see, it looks quite different from the actual TV show. The designs are a little bit not quite there, like their noses are really thick as opposed to they are now. Even the backgrounds and art direction is slightly different, and the cave doesn't quite look like it does now. And that's because, we were just starting it off, playing around, trying to figure out what this world looks like. And so there were a lot of experimentations going on, in this early stage. You can even see the people in this world look kind of like a different design. And that's because, we had different designers for the pilot. And then once we actually started making the show, we took it to a different place, or we kind of built upon this original pilot design. I always knew I wanted this like watercolor kind of feel to it. I actually think the pilot was done in watercolor with like a brush and stuff, but our actual TV show is done all digitally. So my art director, Tony Pullum, what he would do is he created digital brushes that kind of emulate a watercolor look.
Uh-oh, guys, we have a problem. We're already out of star cakes. We gotta stop to refuel.
I'm not gonna use the little panda's room, please.
Oh, let's stop there. They'll have snacks and bathroom stuff and dinosaurs.
Iceberg does not want to make stops unless emergency.
If I don't want
take
snacks
5
in
minutes.
here. Come on, man, it's right there. Come on, man, it's right there.
I write from, what inspires me just in a very broad sense and what I find entertaining and what I find interesting. I think one of the things about working animation is it's a collaborative medium, meaning that I'm not working on my own. I have it's not a huge team, but we have an intimate team of artists who, and we have an even smaller group that really sits together and talks about every kind of aspect of the show. The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about was how do we constantly come up with ideas? And one of the things we do is this thing called Pitch Day, where all the writers, directors, and storyboard artists get together in a room for a day, and we basically pitch ideas for episodes. A lot of them sort of do little gag drawings and little comics for what they think the episode could be, and then we post them up on the wall, and then we constantly have basically all these ideas constantly at our disposal when we start writing. And a lot of them aren't exactly what the idea will be, but what we can do is use them as a springboard. Oh, I remember that idea when Grizz did that in that gag drawing, but what if the episode was kind of about that? So it becomes just a great starting point to like start talking about some new ideas and episodes. For example, one of the episodes that was pitched once was I think the book Watership Down, one of the story artists had been reading it and wrote this episode idea about the baby bears meeting these little bunnies. But then it sort of evolved into this episode called Bunnies, where they sort of help these oppressed bunnies who are being threatened by these crows and fight. They basically help to fight back. Another drawing, I think this was by Lauren Sasson. She did these funny drawings of these bears in costumes. I don't think she had a story attached to it, but she just thought it was really cute. We ended up taking that and turned them into Mexican wrestlers, and we did an episode called Scandalosos, which, funnily enough, is actually the name of our show in Mexico. And, you know, not all the ideas get made, so some of them are just goofy things that get thrown out. So, you know, but they're just fun exploration, essentially.
I don't know what to do. We need to find the perfect thing to buy. Something for all of us.
One aspect of the show, as all of you know, is that we utilize, for example, the internet, social media, memes, things like that, constantly in our show. And that's a balancing act because those things kind of come and go so quickly that we have to be very careful that we don't use something that is going to turn people off because it was so old and it makes our show feel, you know, a little bit obsolete. So we have to be kind of careful to pick and choose the ones that we think will still be funny, you know, especially since this process is so long, you know, like an episode, an 11-minute episode takes about a year to make, so it won't come out for another year. The movie itself, we started about 2.5 years ago until it finally came out. So we have to be very, very cautious and very specific when we choose the jokes that we want to do.
I see you like what you found.
We love it. How fast can it go?
This baby can speed up to 60 kilometers per day.
Wow.
Every episode, though, I want to make sure that, you know, there's a lot of comedy, a lot of fun, but I also want to make sure that there's a lot of heart and there's a lot of sincerity to the episode. And I also want to make sure that every plot has to do with character and has to do with who they are, and it's consistent in that way. This was a picture we took before we took all this down. What this represented was the whole series of Bears, which is 140 episodes. And every time we did an episode, we'd pin it up on the wall. A lot of it was just so we, you know, knew what we had made and what we had accomplished. But it's also because we used it whenever we were writing, and in case like we needed to reference back an episode, we had a shorthand to look at it. The wonderful and beautiful and special thing about animation, the reason I love it so much, is it allows the viewer, the audience, to suspend their disbelief much quicker. What does that mean? So that means that like you can do weird and strange and sort of out of the ordinary things a little bit easier, and people will accept it a little bit more. For example, if We Bare Bears was a live action TV show with real people, and, you know, let's just say we use CG bears even, you know, so it looks like live action or something like that, I think we would have to do a little bit more work to sell the audience on why is this happening, what are the rules of this world. I think there's just a lot more baggage that comes with that. Whereas opposed to, you know, working in 2D animation or just something in a medium that is drawn, you know, and that looks a little bit weird and unnatural already, the audience kind of goes, okay, 3 bears living with humans, okay, I get it. You know, let's keep going. Tell me more.
Let's fly away. Let's fly away. So far away. So far away.
Once the show got popular, the merchandise became a huge part of the show. And, you know, I think almost to the point where some people knew the merchandise before the show. And I would say internationally, you know, it kind of exploded into this huge phenomenon, especially in Asia. This is a picture I took in China. I think it was very early on in our show. It was almost like a year after we'd come out. The show hadn't even come out in China, and yet this store called Miniso was lined with bears, all kinds of different products and homeware and cell phones. Clothing has been done. This is in Malaysia, I think. This is Hong Kong, I think. It was like this thing in a mall where you could take pictures with them eating dim sum, which is really cute. That's a KFC in the Philippines. And then I loved getting toys in cereal boxes, and to see the bears in a cereal box blew my mind. That was really funny.
Come on, Panda, lighten up. We're road tripping. This is fun. Right, little bro?
Fun? Chris, how can you be so calm about this? We're fugitives!
Relax, Panda. They'll never find us. Don't think of this as us being on the run. Think of it more like a road trip.
We always wanted to make a movie, especially me, because I had worked in movies for most of my career. I didn't know it was in the cards for our show, but the studio came to us and they asked us if we wanted to make one. So immediately I was like, yeah, we can do it. And I know exactly how to do it. And my supervising director is also from feature animation. He also came from Pixar. So both of us kind of knew, I mean, we knew it was gonna be tough, and it was tough, but we knew how it went, and we knew the problems that were gonna come up, and we knew how to not freak out, you know, because of those problems. There were a lot of things in the show that we could answer in the movie. One, for example, is just how the bears met. Like that is like one of the biggest mysteries that we have held on to in the show. And we basically knew in the movie we would answer that, which we did. But the other big thing about making a movie is that we knew that we were gonna be able to spend a little bit more money to make it look a little bit better, and we were gonna get to do things that we normally wouldn't get to do on a regular TV show. And that's one of the things that we struggled with a lot on our TV shows, that we always were too ambitious. We always wanted to make the TV show bigger than we could afford, because it's a TV show, so we just don't have like the budget of a movie, but now we do. So basically we wrote a very expensive movie, which is basically a road trip movie, meaning the bears are going out. There's going to be tons of new characters, tons of new backgrounds, tons of new locations, and there's going to be a lot of action, and it's going to be just really the biggest thing we've ever done before for the show, and we did not hold back. I think the other big thing is that, and I don't want to give away too much if you haven't seen the movie, but you know, when you make an episode, like an 11-minute episode, the TV show needs to kind of restart and go back to the beginning, meaning that nobody really changes. Things kind of just stay the same. Even though a big adventure is happening in an episode, you know, the characters are more or less staying the same, or the world is pretty much going to revert back to how it began. When you make a movie, though, you can't just make it one big adventure and it goes back to zero. You really need to change things in a way that makes the adventure, that it was a journey worth taking, so it's not the same exact world that they left. For us, it was very important that the movie had that. It was a very difficult thing to kind of resolve and figure out, and also, you know, we'd spent so long making the show, it's kind of weird to try to change things at the end of the movie. But I think we found a really cool way to do it, and hopefully you will agree.
Hello, officer. We're humans.
The movie, it speaks about things that are going on in the world, in America, you know, about inequality and sort of racism, you know, and that's a big thing that, you know, America for sure has always struggled with, but all over the world, of course, you know, it is an issue. And the bears, to me, have always been sort of these characters who represented minorities in a country, and they basically in this movie are going to be unfairly treated in a way that you know, drives them out of their home and tells them that they don't belong there. It's a scary thing, but it's also a very real thing. Hopefully what people will see is that, you know, this is just like, you know, another race or another, you know, minority living in a world trying to find their place. And it's not fair for them to be treated, you know, in this manner, or to be, you know, driven away or told that they don't belong somewhere. And so one of the main ideas that we had hoped for was that this was a movie that would embrace tolerance, that would embrace equality, and, you know, show that, you know, we should try to live in unity and harmony with each other, and the world will be better because of that. It's only now that I'm getting to look back and realize what we've done and sort of be nostalgic about it at this point, because we're not making it anymore, or at least the regular show. So I'm taking it in. I think I'm very proud of it. I am very proud of the work that the crew has done, because, you know, everyone put so much into it. I knew that they had the right hearts to make a show like this. They were just good people that made the show, and I think it showed, you know, when you'd see the finished product. I look back at the crew with really fond memories, and knowing that some really good people were involved in making the show. I'm very proud of that.